All right, guys, so let's talk about operators now. And so some of you guys might hear that word and not know what it is. That's totally fine. And so operators essentially are like traffic signs that tell our data what to do. So, for example, if we multiply two numbers together, we're using the multiplication operator. If we compare them in a certain way, that is a different kind of operator. And so you can have one or many in the where clause, and you can even use them in the select statement, as we've seen when we were doing the first practice with SQL, where we were doing like 8 times 8 and then like 10 minus 2, things like that. And so those are all operators. They're all logical things that can manipulate, control, and compare our data. And so there's a few different types of operators that we'll go over. And so first up is the arithmetic operators, which we've already seen. It's the multiplication, division, subtraction, addition, things like that. And so just basic math. And these can be kind of layered on top of each other to write more complex formulas. We did some pretty basic things, but you can do all sorts of things with exponents and parentheses if that's what your query calls for. And like I mentioned before, this happens in both the where and the select statements if you need to. So let's talk about comparison operators. And so just like the name suggests, these are all about comparing two things to each other. So a really good case or a use case of this is in the where clause. When and the where clause, by the way, is something we'll talk about more in the future, but the where is basically what filters our data. So we could essentially say, I want all the records where the country is Brazil, or I want all the records where the first name is Christian, things like that. And so that's where this equal sign comes into play. This exclamation mark equal sign means not equal to. The same thing with these two, the greater than and less than sign kind of smushed together. That also means not equal to. We can also do greater than, less than, greater than, or equal to with numbers. And you can even use some of these with strings if you want to. And so these are just used to compare values to one another. And so moving on, there's also special comparison operators. And so these will let you have a little bit more fine-grained control. So for example, if you want to see if you want to return all the records that have a certain column within a certain range, then you can use the between, which will let you say, hey, get me all the columns where age is between 10 and 20. And this is inclusive, meaning that whatever numbers you put in there, 10 and 20 will be included. So if someone is 10 years old or someone is 20 years old, those will be included in there, rather than an exclusive operator, which excludes the ranges that you have set. And so another really interesting one that is really, really useful is the like operator. This will allow you to check if a string is inside of a certain column. So for example, if you're searching through a list of cities or states, for example, we'll use states. Let's say you want to grab all the states that have the word new in them. So for example, New York and New Jersey. And so you could just use the like operator in order to search up if the city has the word new in it, rather than seeing if New York and New Jersey are in there specifically. You could just specify that new keyword, and we'll see how to do that. List is a really, really interesting one. It allows you to provide, or in is a really interesting one. It essentially allows you to provide a list of things to SQL and check if a column is in that certain, if it's in that list. And we'll explain that in the future. Is essentially the same thing as our equal to operator right over here. And you can also use these keywords with it. Is null, is true, is false, or is not null. And so it's a little bit more straightforward when you're reading it rather than the equal sign as far as that goes. And lastly, there's logical operators. And so logical operators, these are pretty much English words that are used in SQL. And so we could say not to negate a condition. You can see it used right here with not null. Sometimes it's not necessary to use that. For example, you don't need to say like is not true, because you could just say is false, right? And is going to combine all your conditions together, and or is going to say either or. One of these is true. If one of these is true, then include it. You need to be careful when you're working with and ors all in the same where clause. The reason is because you don't want to trigger something that you didn't mean to be triggered and retrieve certain records. And we'll go into that, how that works and how you can work around that. But just know that using these together can sometimes be a little bit tricky. And so these operators are, first of all, just going to expand your capabilities as far as filtering our data. And we'll use all of them right now in the next video. And if it feels like a lot, don't worry. We're going to do examples for every single one of these. And so those are operators, and I'll see you guys in the next video when we practice them.